Hi, I'm Carol Owens, and this is Stockbridge Updates. You know, we should not take other people's political concerns lightly. For example, in this issue of Stockbridge Updates, there's a column about the possibility of a permanent flag in the Stockbridge Cemetery. Now, this is something that I never, ever even thought about. And even after it was presented to me as a possible issue, I find I have absolutely no opinion. Both sound just wonderful. Leave it as it always has been, or put a flag in our cemetery. What is important to me, and on behalf of Stockbridge Updates, is that there is a full discussion on this, that we take other people's ideas seriously, that we provide a public forum, and that everybody feels comfortable and welcome to share their ideas. On that subject, I'm going to share an idea. I personally, me, Carol Owens, have a pet peeve, and it is this. I have lived in the same house on Prospect Hill for 50 years. That means twice every day of my life, I go down Prospect Hill to the intersection of South Street and Main Street in Stockbridge, what we lovingly call Red Lion Corner, and then back home. So over 50 years, 365 days a year, at least twice a day, I have absolutely no idea, but it's pretty close to 38,000 times in my life. I feel competent to discuss the intersection. I feel I know it well. As the population of Stockbridge has grown, there are more of us, and we all have cars. The congestion at Red Lion Corner has become more and more difficult. Now, somebody suggested a roundabout. That's where you drive all the way around to wherever you want to exit. Well, the problem is there's no room for a roundabout there. We're a small village with small intersections. But somebody had a really brilliant idea. I believe it was somebody from Mass Department of Transportation, and that is that there's a kind of truncated roundabout, and it's painted on the pavement in the shape of an egg. Other people call it an oval. Now, it's been painted at that intersection for about 4 years. And you know what everybody does? They think to themselves, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, and they drive right across that oval. They ignore that. And what that does, see, is that creates an impact spot. It takes away the whole reason for that oval and creates a place where you can have a crash right there. The point of the oval is, as the driver, always keep it on your left. So if you're going straight, the oval's here and you're over here. The guy over there is going straight and he's got the oval on the left. You two don't interfere with each other at all. If you're turning, I come down off the hill, I keep the oval on my left, and I make something that's like an L, which means that fellow can come up. We each can proceed to the point of the oval and not impact. That's my pet peeve. Stop cutting across the oval. Think to yourself, somebody got down on their hands and knees and painted it there for a very good reason. And you know what it was? It was to keep us safe. So let's respect the egg at Red Lion Corner. Now, this is exciting. I have a very special guest, Marybeth Mitts. She is currently on the select board in Lenox and has been for some time. She'll tell us how long. And now she is stretching out. She's extending her reach, and she is running for representative to the House of Representatives in Boston from the Berkshire 3rd District Welcome.
Thank you, Carol. It's great to be here with you this morning.
Oh, thank you so much. And you know, I was thinking about what you have to go through. Berkshire Third is 18 towns, 18 with one representative. I think Boston is one town and it has like 14 representatives. So you'll correct me, so you'll have to run around to 18. But then I thought, that's a lot of work. But it must be very exciting and interesting. You must be learning a lot. Won't you share with us?
Sure. It's very interesting and exciting, and it's sort of like having 18 children. So you know how much people tend to love their children. They all have different personalities. All of the 18 towns certainly have their own personalities. It's been great to get to know people from everywhere from Mount Washington and Sandusfield, Alford, Washington, Dalton, to the centrally located areas of New Marlboro and Monterey, Lee, which I'm pretty familiar with because they're my next door neighbor in Lenox. So it's been very edifying to sort of reach out and go to the four corners of the Berkshire district and up into Dalton. They're a new addition to this district. It's been traditionally pretty much South County. So adding Dalton has been something new, but it's been fantastic knocking on doors and getting to meet people.
Well, bless your heart. Now, do you find that let's just talk about the biggest ones. The biggest are Lee, Lenox, Dalton, and Great Barrington.
Right.
And others like Stockbridge and beyond are markedly smaller.
Sure.
But what do you find? Do you find their problems are similar or very distinct?
Well, the individual problems tend to be similar. We're all struggling with emergency medical services and how we're going to serve the rural districts here in the 3rd Berkshire district. Everybody's kind of bumping up against their levy limit. That's making it more difficult to do things like buy new ambulances and buy new fire trucks. So these are the things that we're really digging into right now.
Let me just say that in 1980, the state of Massachusetts passed 2.5, which was a law that made a levy limit. The levy is the tax. The limit is the 2.5%. And what it said, in any given year, you are limited to a certain amount of raising in the property taxes. And so the levy limit is very important. Also, just FYI, it can be overridden at town meeting or by a special town meeting, but even then, there are pluses and minuses to waive. I'm very interested in the roads and the road resurfacing. This is a big deal out here.
It is. We have significant numbers of road miles here in the 3rd Berkshire district. Sandusfield alone has 58 miles of unpaved road, which is substantial. I was recently at a Mass Municipal Association meeting where all of the representatives were touting the fact that the state has given us an additional $25 million in additional Chapter 90 funds. Well, that only paves 25 road miles in the state. So it's kind of chump change. That's going to help 25 jurisdictions. Terrific. Hopefully everybody's Chapter 90 money is a little bit more significant than that, but I know that year over year, you generally have to save up your Chapter 90 money so that you can do, maybe 2 road miles or 3 road miles. So it's something that really needs to be improved statewide.
And specifically, I was concerned. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I was concerned by a state mandate to take unpaved roads, which we have lots of, and many of us prefer for a lot of reasons,
Right.
And pave them. Is that really happening? Because that would be so expensive for us.
It would be very costly, and I believe the most important factor with regard to that is if you have a lot of residents down an unpaved road, it's going to possibly be more difficult for emergency and fire vehicles to get to those residences. Right. In a lot of cases, I think that those unpaved roads don't necessarily have to be paved, but you do have to be aware of how many residents you have on those roads, whether the gravel treatment that you have is adequate for your public safety vehicles to get where they need to go.
Yeah. The issues are really so interesting, and even just paved or unpaved roads. You mentioned a very important variable. There are people who are opposed to it for aesthetic reasons. There are lots of opinions. What's troubled me recently on the national level, and I think it's filtering down, is there seems to be more gamesmanship, even brinksmanship, than actual discussion of the issues. And end of the day, Marybeth, what happens is what's important.
Right. I find that very frustrating as well. Yeah. The brinksmanship that is going on nationally and locally is very upsetting to me, which is one of the reasons that I'm running as an independent. Because I think it's less important that you're a member of a party than that you're someone who's going to help get things done for the people in your district. And there are quite a number of concerns that people have who may be Democrat, Libertarian, Republican, or Green Party member. And all of those issues need to be addressed and targeted for getting more resources back to the Berkshires to help us with everything from agriculture and climate control, education, transportation, housing, roads, bridges, and infrastructure. There are so many issues, and I want to stop talking about them and actually get something done.
Yeah, I can understand that. This may be a bit of an unfair question, but facts are facts, and out of 60 representatives and 40 senators,
160 representatives.
160 and 40, 200 total.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
200 total. We're 4. Yeah.
Yes.
But
correct.
more than that, our population is shrinking, and it wasn't very big to start with. So that if you're in Boston and you're a party member, pick your party, and you want to win elections and so forth, we don't look real important. So here's the unfair part of the question.
Bring it.
Okay, you haven't been there yet. You haven't tried anything out yet.
That's true.
But from the position you're in now, what do you think you could bring to get their attention and convince them they ought to help us?
Well, I have an awful lot of federal experience. I started my career in the federal government with the Department of Housing and Urban Development and then shifted over to the U.S. Navy. So I've been a part of 2 very complex organizations. I've had to do a lot of lobbying for funding, for policy changes. I've written policy at the federal level. I know how to get things done. I've gotten a 65-unit housing project through in the town of Lenox. That took 6 years. That was not easy. So I can move the needle. I know I can move the needle. I've had conversations with Susanna Whipp, who's the other independent representative. She has informed me that even though you're an independent, you're generally caucusing with the Democrats. You're going to be able to get things done for your jurisdiction. She's managed to get a lot for her jurisdiction in Franklin County. And I think building coalitions and building on the issues that everyone faces when it comes to education, transportation, housing, building coalitions and getting things that don't just apply to the Berkshires, but apply to all of us in the Commonwealth. Most importantly, moving forward things on climate change and sustainability. If we're working together, we're all going to get more. And that's what I'm going for.
You know, you just touched on two of the knottiest problems that we have right now, and we could take them one at a time. And they all have to do with population versus current need. Let me tell you what I mean. Right now, we have 300 or 400 students in the Great Barrington West Stockbridge School District. Okay. That's projected to go down and then down and then down. But right now, before it went anywhere, we need a school.
Right.
How do you balance the projections with the current need?
That's a thorny question.
Yes.
No doubt about it. And that's something that jurisdiction, those jurisdictions that participate in that regional school district are going to have to suss out for themselves. As a state representative, I can be a part of the conversation, but the taxpayers in those districts are going to make those decisions for themselves. I would like to be a part of those conversations insofar as driving information with regard to data, population data, the reality of the cost of building a new school building and how many millions of dollars that would be, the impact of that on the taxpayers. And moving forward, you know, if we can't develop new jobs and new industry and bring new families to the area, this area will continue to contract. That's why transportation is so important.
Yes. And
possibly bringing west-east rail, and I think north-south rail, too. I think we should be extending the spur from Wassaic to Pittsfield. That would really help in developing our region. So those things are very important conversations to continue to have. I know that those conversations have occurred and there have been breakdowns, but we still need to keep talking about shared services. We need to keep talking about what we're going to be doing to educate our kids in a modern facility and to develop industry in our area to keep people here or to bring more people here.
Kind of associated with that. At the same time that we don't have an adequate school in one district for a number of hundreds of kids, do we have empty classrooms or underpopulated classrooms in other of the schools? In other words, you're looking at a regional approach to emergency medical service and even fire.
Correct.
Is there a larger region for schools?
I believe there's the possibility for a larger region for the schools. It's called Berkshire County. I grew up in a jurisdiction of about 86,000 people in Connecticut. Of those 86,000 people, there were quite a number of children. We had a district that had two large public high schools, 1,600 kids in each high school. We clearly don't have that population base here, even in Berkshire County. I think that we could start discussing a shared services model that might even encompass the county. But that's a discussion for another day. It's something that I believe everyone's going to have to at least be willing to have. I think it's important to sit down and knock these ideas around, bring up the good points and the bad points and the pros and the cons on all this stuff, because the data is showing us one thing, and it's going to be incumbent upon us to not impact the taxpayers to such a significant degree that we're bankrupting ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure. And I think that you're absolutely right that certain conversations like these have broken down. For example, if there are projections, I sat in the room with one representative yelling, well, I don't believe the projections, and people on the other side of the room so frustrated, say, well, we have to plan for the future, and this is the data that we have. And I understand that's difficult. And I respect anyone that says we have to bring the data into the conversation. I've lived here so very long.
A little bit longer than I have.
Yeah, that I remember big box stores coming in and going out of business for lack of enough trade, enough customers,
enough foot traffic. Yeah, there's just not the foot traffic there used to be.
There's none, and so then you have a big empty building and an inordinate amount of paved ground.
Correct.
Where we could have had trees and grass, and it's not being used. And of course, the worst example of that is all of Lanesboro Mall.
Right.
And in all of the planning, whether it's schools, housing, attracting business, any of the things we talk about, we don't want it to lead that way.
Right.
Where we build it for now and cannot sustain it for tomorrow.
Yeah, well, we have to think about repurposing things. So something like the Berkshire Mall and that giant parking lot up there, that would qualify as a gray field. And perhaps we could put a large solar array up there and we could start generating some of our own renewable power. Perhaps we could put some battery backup, some storage space in the Berkshire Mall. And if, we needed that backup, we would have the battery storage. So I think there's ways to think about this creatively and do ourselves some good and do less harm to the environment and provide electricity, provide, a good use for those gray fields.
I think that's very interesting. Thank you so much. Sure. I don't know if you know that Stockbridge was selected for a statewide honor. And we're going to have, I think it's called Forest Day. I never get the title right. And that's going to be on October 19th. And I don't know whether you're coming or not, but people are coming from all over the state. And what's behind it is something that I'm so proud of, and that is the degree to which Stockbridge, over its 300 years, has preserved and protected the old-growth forest at Ice Glen, Gould Meadows, that fabulous Berkshire Botanical Garden. And now Fen Farm has gone into conservation. And for those who don't know, Fen Farm is 351 acres on the north face of Monument Mountain. So for a little town, it was 27,000 acres on the first day it was created. We've done a pretty good job of preservation, and I think that's true all over the county. And I think Lenox, in that regard, has a lot to be proud of. And I kind of want to close on this. I have flown over Berkshire County. Perhaps you have.
I have too. Yeah.
And you have driven through it.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. Isn't it marvelous?
It is marvelous. We're incredibly lucky to live here. This is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, and I'm so lucky to live here. And I've lived in a lot of places. But it's really important that we use our forests and our conservation land in a thoughtful way. There is a way to sequester carbon. There's a way to use the resources that our forests give us responsibly and renewably. So I think it's fantastic that we're going to have this day of celebration in Stockbridge on October 19th, and you can bet I will be there.
Good.
And it's terrific to be able to work with terrific folks like Patrick White, Jamie Minacci, and Chuck Cardello. They are a very hardworking select board, and I am lucky to work with them as a select board member in the town of Lenox. Patrick and I are working on a feasibility study right now to get a walking trail that surrounds the Tanglewood property.
Yeah.
And, we would be just so jazzed. We're working with Berkshire Regional Planning Commission if we could get something like that over the finish line together as two towns cooperating with one another.
I thank you so much for being here.
Well, I thank you for having me.
I wish you good luck in all your projects.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you all on October 19th.
Thank you, Carol.